Are you interested in learning more about the origin of atomic bombs in a didactic and quick way? I recommend my book, The Atom as a Weapon, available on Amazon and at the eClap store. Find it via the link in the description or the on-screen QR code. But if you want your copy autographed by me for you, just send an email to Gmail with your Zone Improvement Plan code so I can calculate the shipping. Today, you're going to find out who is the father of Iran's missile program. All these ballistic missiles that we've been following in this war, which are being launched against Israel and also against the Persian Gulf, can be traced back to the work of one man. This man is Hassan Tirani Moghadam, and today we're going to understand who he was. Unlike Werner von Braun, who is the father of German rockets, and we can also say of American rockets, of American missiles, and also Sergei Korolev, who is the father of missiles and rockets of the Soviet Union. Hassan Moghadam did not dream of being a rocket designer. He did not dream of space. Since they were young, the other two dreamed of it, right? He actually had a childhood and youth quite different from those two other famous engineers, because he started out as someone passionate about artillery. Hassan Tirani Moghadam family was born in Tehran, the capital of Iran, on October 29, 1959. And as he grew up, he was considered one of those hands-on boys, right? Who really liked to experiment on his own. And he, still very young, look at that, was already making small homemade bombs. In 1977, he graduated from high school at the age of 18, and immediately he became part of a militia group in the city of Gilan, which is there. It's a province northwest of Tehran, on the shores of the Caspian Sea. This was a time of a lot of civil unrest within Iran, with the revolt growing bigger and bigger against the Shah, Reza Pahlavi, and so Moghadam joined this struggle, right? He joined the guerrillas who fought against the Shah's troops in various cities of Iran in the northern region of the country. He also studied at the Tehran Technical University, which, after the January 1979 revolution, became the Islamic Revolutionary Technical University of Iran. And at that university, he left in 1980 to join the newly formed Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps of Iran. And since he was already considered an extremely talented young man, right? Technically very talented. And also with the large exodus of people that followed the establishment of the Islamic revolutionary regime in the country, Moghadam, still very young, was made chief of intelligence of the 3rd Section in northern Iran within the Revolutionary Guard. And the following year, in 1982, he got married. And in this marriage, he had 4 children. In 1980, Iraq invaded Iran, which then started the Iran-Iraq War. And it was precisely in this war that all of Moghadam's talent for artillery was put to great use. At school, he learned a lot about metallurgical sciences and developed and improved projectiles for cannons of various calibers. In the first months of the Iranian counteroffensive, and in November 1981, during the Operation Tariq al-Quds, a major Iranian counteroffensive that took back about 800 square kilometers of its territory that had been lost to Iraq, Moghadam was fundamental to the Iranian success by planning and executing. The massive artillery barrage that hit the Iraqi forces shook them and allowed the Iranians to advance and retake dozens of villages in that area. The following year, in 1982, he founded the 1st Artillery Corps of the Revolutionary Guard, and also in the same year, the Arfaz Artillery Research Center. When he founded his research center, he already started using a verse from the Quran, which became a personal mantra for him for the rest of his life. This verse is, "It was not you who threw the stone at them, it was God who threw it." Several people who worked with Hassan Moghadam over the following decades observed that he really took this verse very seriously. He painted it on several missiles, and on several occasions also ordered the firing of missiles, even if the designated target had next to it some kind of condemned target, like a school or a hospital. He ordered the launch, saying that God would guide the missile to the correct target. As in the early years of the Iran-Iraq War, both air forces were targets of large-scale enemy attacks. They quickly became quite worn out and were unable to carry out large-scale attacks. So both sides ended up having to rely heavily on the use of missiles. And while Iraq already had a large number of Soviet Scud missiles in its arsenal, the Iranians had to improvise. To get their first missiles, the Iranians finally started negotiations to buy their first batch of missiles from the Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi in 1982. It was at that time that the young commander of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, Masem al-Hazai, chose the talented Hassan Moghadam to be the director of the brand new Iranian missile program. And they say that when he received this new position, he was astonished, speechless. He just looked at al-Hazai with wide eyes and then said, "Artillery is easy, but rockets, may God help me with this." In 1983 then, he founded the Missile Command of the Revolutionary Guard. And the following year, 1984, he was sent to Syria leading a delegation of Iranian engineers who would carry out the first Scud missile launches. And they say that during that mission, the Syrians placed several very beautiful women in the same hotel where the Iranians were staying. And although some of his colleagues, many of them I would say, wanted to go out, get distracted and take advantage of the situation, he gathered everyone in the same room, gave them a serious scolding, and said, "We are here to learn how to handle the missile, and we are not going to get distracted by anything." From then on, the story gets a bit murky, because many people report that Moghadam simply did reverse engineering on the Scud missiles delivered by the Libyans. But other historians claim that the Iranians stole spreadsheets, stole blueprints of the Scud missiles that were in the hands of Libyan engineers. And based on these blueprints, they made their own version of the Scud-B missile, which became the first Iranian national missile, the Shahab-1, in 1985. So Moghadam leads the launch of the first nationally produced missile in Iran, the Shahab-1, against the Iraqi city of Kirkuk. Shortly after that, he goes to North Korea to gain knowledge about a new North Korean version of the Scud, which becomes the Shahab-2. And, at the same time, he develops a domestic version of a Chinese artillery rocket that ends up becoming the Zerzal rocket, the first model in a large family of thousands of Iranian artillery rockets. With the end of the Iran-Iraq War, in the early 1990s, Moghadam's attention turns to transforming the Zerzal rocket into a short-range ballistic missile, which eventually becomes the Fatah 110. In 1995, a short-range solid-fuel ballistic missile was, for the first time, fully produced in Iran. By the way, if you're confused by all the missile names I'm mentioning here and want to know a bit more about each of them, there's my video about Iran's ballistic missile program, which you should check out right after this one here. Moghadam also goes back to North Korea to learn about the North Korean No-Dong missile, which once brought to Iran becomes the Shahab-3. This time, it's a medium-range ballistic missile that can reach up to 2,000 kilometers. That's the first Iranian missile capable of striking Israel. But even though the Shahab-3 was approved for operational use by the Iranian Armed Forces in 2003, the missile was not very accurate, and in 2004, Moghadam began studies to develop the GADR-110, a version of the Shahab-3 with much better accuracy. He would also start, around the year 2000, the project for the Sejil missile, a medium-range ballistic missile with a range of 2,500 kilometers, powered by 2 stages of solid fuel, and seen by the whole world as proof of the very rapid advancement of the Iranian missile program. At the beginning of the 2000s, Moghadam's figure had become immensely important to the regime, and in 2005 he was made a general of the Revolutionary Guard and also deputy commander of the missile force of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard. Unlike many leaders of the Islamic regime, who liked to lead a very modest life, Hassan Moghadam was quite fond of luxury. One of his sons told the press his father always stressed this point, that life was worth living in the best possible style, eating the best food, and always buying the best cars. It's important for us to note that it's quite difficult to talk about specific details of Hassan Moghadam's career as the manager of Iran's missile program, because much of the documentation about his life is still classified, extremely classified. And there is no serious hope that these files will be revealed to the public in the short or medium term. But right at the height of his fame and at the peak of his power, on November 12, 2011, at 1:30 p.m., General Hassan Moghadam, along with 17 other technicians who were part of the Iranian missile team, died in a huge explosion that happened in the locality of Ibrahimovic Bith Khaneh, about 50 kilometers west of Tehran, at the Shahid Modahi's missile base. This explosion was so massive that it shattered windows in the outskirts of the capital itself, Tehran. And although the government initially said that the explosion was caused by a ruptured gas pipeline, later on, Tehran changed the story and said that the disaster happened due to improper procedures during the transportation of ammunition at that base. And although many people strongly suspected Israeli sabotage inside Iran, the Iranian government quickly dismissed that hypothesis and claimed that it was nothing more than an accident. But even with this confirmation from Tehran, Western reports, speaking with sources that were never identified, continued to insist that the explosion was the work of Mossad sabotage. And the funeral of the 17 technicians deeply moved the nation, especially because of the loss of Hassan Moghadam, who was made a martyr by the Iranian regime. In fact, Ali Khamenei himself attended the technicians' funeral. The controversy over the real reason for the explosion that killed Hassan Moghadam only increased in 2016, when his brother, Mohammed Moghadam, went to the press, and he said that it had really been the work of the Israelis from the Secret Service. Mossad also admitting that Israel had been trying to kill his brother for many years. And of course, for many people, that's not hard to believe. Given the large number of missile scientists, rocket scientists, and also atomic scientists, nuclear physicists who were killed by Israel in several cities in Iran. So, did you already know the story of the father of the Iranian missile program? Was this new to you? Tell us here in the comments. If you like this video, then share it with your friends, but also give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to War Room so you don't miss anything else. I'll wrap it up here and thank you again for watching, and here's a big hug from the War Room.